So my vlog for the month of July is going to be based in the Assynt area, and we are going to be here for a full week, and we're going to show you things that you can do in Assynt, but also day trips that you can do from this region. I should explain that Assynt is a region in the northwest corner of Scotland. Its nearest major town is Lochinver, which is about a 30-minute drive away from where we are staying, which is Drumbeg. Assynt has recently seen a lot more visitors coming to it because of the popularity of the NC500 route, and Assynt is one of the little corners that the road goes through. However, most of the people that are coming here with the NC500 are coming here just to drive through it en route to somewhere else. What we're going to do over the next week is show you the attractions that you can visit, that you can do as day trips, and how you could fill several days staying in this area just purely doing it. What you will notice with the things that we are visiting is that virtually all of them are weather dependent attractions. There's mainly sort of waterfalls, great mountains you can climb, and fantastic beaches you can explore. It's also an area that is absolutely teeming with midges at the moment, and they're eating me alive. And I would have told you a lot more about Assynt, but these guys are going to suck the blood out of me. It's not normally been a problem. Usually there's a bit of a wind round about, but at this time of night, which is about 9 o'clock at night, in the middle of July, lovely clear skies, the sun's still up, the midges are at their absolute worst. So I'm going to stop filming here. I'm going to go on and I'm going to show you little clips of the different places that you can visit round about Assynt as we go through the week. So this is Clachtoll Waterfalls. It's like a wee mini Scottish Niagara Falls. You can get right up to the base of the waterfall and you can get very wet, as we have already done. It's only about a 15-minute walk up from the shore, so it's a nice easy walk, but it is quite muddy even in July, which is when we're visiting at the moment. So do bring yourself some hiking boots, because you will have to jump from one boggy bit to another boggy bit. Fortunately today is quite windy, otherwise this would be a midgie fest because it's marshy ground, but the wind today is quite fresh, and typically midges can't fly in wind speeds more than about 5 miles an hour, so that's a plus for us. But yeah, Clachtoll Falls, well worth doing, only a 15-minute hike, 30 minutes round trip, we recommend it. Our next thing to do in the Assynt area, it's a bit of an obvious one, it's the walk out to the Old Man of Stoer, the sea stack that I was just showing you there. It's not to be confused with the Old Man of Stoer on Skye. The reason there's two places called Stoer is because Stoer is derived from a Norse word which means stake, and obviously this sea stack looks like a stake, and the Old Man of Stoer, which is a rocky pinnacle on Skye, it looks like a stake as well, hence the Norse name. It's not a hard walk, it's only about 3 kilometres, 2 miles from the car park, but it is a very squelchy, muddy walk in places, so I would recommend, if you're doing it, that you wear some proper hiking boots, good stout shoes, because you will probably have to step in some muddy bits to get to where you're going. Most of the path is grassy and not too bad, but there are some traps that you have along the way. Now, if you're feeling lazy, you can get to the first viewpoint to see the sea stack, and it's only about a 40-45 minute walk from the car park. But if you actually want to get out to the closest point on the cliffs beside the sea stack, you have to make a walk of about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half to be on the safe side, so a 3-hour round trip in total. But as I say, quite an easy walk, mainly flat, although a few gradients as you get closer to the actual sea stack. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, and when we get up close to the sea stack, I will give you a little zoom in with the camera. So there you have it, the Old Man of Stoer. And if walking out to the sea stack isn't enough of a challenge for you, there is actually a cable attached at the very bottom between the mainland and the sea stack, so you can slide across keeping your feet dry, and you can actually rock climb up the sea stack if that takes your fancy. We unfortunately didn't bring our climbing gear with us today, so we're going to have to give that a miss, and we're just going to have a picnic and head back to the car. Honest. Today, Stac Pollaidh. Stac Pollaidh is actually a really popular mountain. It's in a remote part of Scotland. It's about, well, the starting point is about a 30-minute drive north of Ullapool, and it's about an hour's drive south from Lochinver. Despite that, it is really popular, so don't expect to climb this mountain and have it all to yourselves. Certainly not in the peak summer months. On that note as well, the car park at the base of the walk, the start of the walk, is really quite small. It maybe only holds about 25 cars, maybe 30 at a push, so it fills up quite quickly. So you really need to get here early in the morning, say about 10 o'clock, if you want to be guaranteed of getting a space in the main car park. There is another lay-by slightly further up the road that's wide enough that you can get several cars in there, so you might get squeezed in if you come later. We started the walk today at 11 o'clock and we got lucky, but half an hour later and you would have been struggling to get a parking space. So it's busy, but it's not so busy that it actually really spoils your pleasure of the hike. It's not like Ben Nevis where it's just a steady stream of people going up and down. What we can tell you about it, this fantastic landscape that you're seeing round about behind me, is formed by Torridonian sandstone mountains, quite a soft stone, which rests on top of a bed of Lewisian gneiss, which is a much harder stone, and the glacial action eroded away all the sandstone and left these distinctive mountains sitting on top of a hard bed of Lewisian gneiss, hence the fact we have this unusual landscape. So it's day four of our research trip up in Assynt, and we have once again ventured outside of the Assynt region. We've come up the coast into Handa Island, which is easily reached from a little village called Scurry. You go north of Scurry and then you go along a single track road and you come to a little place called Tarbert, where you catch a small RIB boat, speedboat, that takes you across to Handa Island. It's about £15 for an adult's ticket to come across and £5 for a child. And the main reason you come to Handa Island is if you're an ornithologist, because it is very carefully managed as a seabird colony. The birds that you'll know if you're not into ornithology are puffins. It's got a puffin colony. Unfortunately, the puffin colony is very guarded and protected, so you don't get very close to the puffins. But it's not just about seabirds. We've come here because it's a lovely walk around the island. It's got fantastic geology, amazing sea cliffs, very vertical sea cliffs, which are obviously part of the seabird colony. But the geology is quite awesome. It's also an island with fantastic views, but it's got a beautiful beach. The beach that you arrive at when you get off the little speedboat is one of the most idyllic little bays, golden sands, turquoise waters. So £15 to come and swim on the beach is a bit expensive, but I would certainly allow time, if you do come to Handa Island, I would certainly allow enough time in your schedule for having a wee bit of relaxation time on the beach. Bring your swimming costumes, bring a towel, and don't be shy, because boats will be coming in and out. About every sort of 30 minutes or so the boat comes and goes. The rangers are on the island. There's a little visitor centre island on the island, a very little visitor centre, and there are some toilets on the island, and that's the only things you'll find on the island. So you need to bring a packed lunch. But the rangers are very helpful, and they will tell you everything that there is to see and do on the island in terms of the wildlife and the seabirds that you can see, and they can give you some of the history of the island, which in a summary, there's not a lot to tell you. It used to, in the 1840s, have a population of about 64 people. Then the potato blight hit in 1847, 1848, and starvation forced the islanders to move pretty much en masse to Nova Scotia. And you can still see some of their houses, the ruins of the old crofting houses are there, so it's quite a poignant island to visit in that respect. But the highlights for me, just that glorious beach that you arrive at and the sea cliffs, and if you're not fussed about spending time looking at seabirds, you can do the circuit of the island in about 2 hours. It's an enjoyable way to spend, well, at least half a day, and yeah, we'd say Handa Island is worth a visit if you get a nice sunny day like today. If it's a wet day, just don't bother. So day 5 of our little research trip up to the Assynt area, and today we've gone north to the most wonderful beach on the northwest coast, Sandwood Bay. It's a fantastic beach in terms of sheer expanse of sand. There's not many places in Scotland that can rival this. And you've got a sea stack over there. The Gaelic name for it translates as the shepherd. It's a wonderful beach. It's about a 2-hour walk from the nearest road. But it's a nice easy walk. It's a very, very good path. There are a few bits where you have to jump on stepping stones, and most of the path though is really well made. You could get by with just good ordinary stout shoes, so long as you are able to jump between the stepping stones okay. It took us with an 8-year-old child in tow about an hour and 45 minutes to get to the beach, and that was with a couple of stops to have a wee drink of water because it's a very hot day today. But I would say if you get weather as good as this and you're in the Sutherland, Assynt area, Lochinver area, Sandwood Bay is a must-see. It's well worth the effort. I'm not sure how much we're going to enjoy the 2-hour walk back because we don't have the beach to look forward to, but the beach is very good, very worth coming to. And yes, it's reasonably popular. The car park at the start of the walk was pretty much full. There's toilet block at the car park, and there's little information leaflets that you can get about the walk and the landscape you're walking through. The landscape is a protected area. It's a site of special scientific interest. It's a classic example of the Machir, where you have these very fertile plains behind sand dunes, and you get this wonderful diversity of flora and fauna, and it's a very popular area for people to come to, as you can see. But even though it's popular, and I would guess there's maybe possibly about 50 people on the beach today in this glorious weather, there's just so much space that you feel as though you've got the beach to yourself. There's even been some ladies sunbathing topless at the other end of the beach. It wasn't a nice sight, but it is that open and expanse that you don't need to worry about feeling crowded out by anyone. We're going to have a wee paddle on the beach and a picnic, and then we're going to head back to the car. But Sandwood Bay, highly recommend. Oh, I forgot to mention, as you walk into Sandwood Bay, there's an old house that you'll see. You shouldn't go into the house. It's a haunted house. There's stories of people coming here and staying in the house when it was more intact. It still had a roof on it and floors. And there's stories of the ghost of an old fisherman who is sometimes seen walking along the beach collecting firewood. Whether it's related to the ghost at the house, I don't know, but people who have stayed in the house have reported experiences of poltergeists, windows rattling, doors slamming, noises like a horse charging around inside the house. And people who have taken little bits of wood as souvenirs from the house have had problems when they've got back home with poltergeists, so much so that they've actually come back to Sandwood to return the pieces of wood. But I think we're going to be okay. But just a little warning that if you see the house, stay away from it. It might be a spooky experience. Anyway, it's time for my picnic, and we'll see you again maybe later. This might be the last big thing that we do in this trip, but it's certainly been the highlight. So it's almost the end of our exploration around the Assynt, Lochinver, Sutherland area, and I thought I'd better do a little closeout. We've been blessed with the weather. We've been very, very fortunate. We had one day of rain, which we spent in Pollaidh Woods at Lochinver. I didn't take any pictures of that walk around. We discovered some nice restaurants and cafes though, which will be going in the guides. But the other reason I'm doing this little video is just to show you that midges aren't actually as bad as you think. See, I've got my top up and I haven't even been bitten by a midgie. So it's not as bad as you think. We've got a little bit of breeze, the sun's out, and these are the perfect conditions. The midges are not the plague that you might have heard about in other guidebooks and seen on the internet. So yes, Assynt, getting back on subject. Fantastic area, Scenery is just about the most amazing scenery in Scotland. It really is, it's quite mind-blowing. Just the diversity of the shapes of the mountains, the lakes. The NC500 is a beautiful road. One thing I would say though about the NC500, they do guide it through this area, and I would not have done that. I think the person who created the NC500 route did it with a map and didn't actually do his route research terribly well, because this is a single track road with some incredibly steep 1 in 4 descents. And the problem with the NC500 is it's attracting a lot of camper vans. And camper vans and single track roads and steep ascents and descents, it's not a good mix. But apart from that, the NC500 hasn't overcrowded the roads, but it has made the laybys noticeably more busy. We have been up here many times, and in the past, at a certain time of night, the laybys were empty and the viewpoints were great. Nowadays you go to a layby after 6 o'clock at night and it's full of camper vans. It's a strange phenomenon that the NC500 has created. But it hasn't spoilt the experience. The highlights of the trip, I would say, for Aurelia, it was the climb up Stac Pollaidh. That for me was just a wee bit too hot and sweaty, but it was a fantastic mountain to climb, 2,000 foot high, an hour and a half to get to the top, amazing views all the way up. And as I think I've made it clear in the guides, for me, Sandwood Bay is just an amazing big beach. It was a much easier walk in and out than you might be led to believe by guides. It's a very good path, and although it's a 2-hour walk, it's a very enjoyable beach when you get there. The only downside is, of course, the 2-hour walk back when you've got nothing to look forward to other than getting into a very hot car. However, everything that we have done has been very weather dependent, and that is the big condition. If you're coming to Assynt, you've got to be prepared for getting outside, getting out of your car, going up mountains, going on long walks. Otherwise, you're not going to find a lot to do here. There's not castles to look at, or there is a castle, but it's in ruinous state. There's small museums, but there's not many all-weather attractions to keep you entertained. But Assynt and the whole Loch-Inver area, very attractive. Don't just blast through it on the NC500, please give it some time and explore it in more detail.